Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, one episode a day, and today, on the 6th of January 2017, we are starting the next Patrick Troughton story with The Invasion, a story written by previous script editor Derrick Sherwin, who is replaced in this story by Terrence Dicks as script editor, from a story idea by Kit Pedler, the creator of the Cybermen, much in the capacity as he was the writer on The War Machines, and I believe The Wheel in Space as well. So this is the third time Kit Pedler has a story. Now this is the first episode, so we are beginning with, of course, episode 1, which is Missing. And I must say, this is the first attempt for Doctor Who to do an animated Missing episode, even if it is the last. So these are the last Missing episodes actually in chronology to be animated. Which I'm not against, because it is, this was actually their first experiment. It was only ever done because the webcast Scream of the Shalka was such a big hit, apparently, and works, and they were originally just going to animate the entire story of The Invasion, so they were able to just be like, alright, we're just going to go ahead and do the two episodes that are in fact missing, and, they can release the real ones on DVD. It was originally going to be a webcast, but this one, of course, is on DVD. The animation itself is very, very low budget, very choppy. It has a nice feel to it, considering it sort of feels like a Doctor Who episode done on the 60s budget in animation, which really helps. The character designs are pretty realistic, and everything tries its hardest to be pretty period accurate. My only foible is that they made a mistake. They had Zoe's costume be wrong, and they actually included a little Easter egg for the new series, which is something a couple of animations have done, which I've never really liked. That's one of those things that I feel like that's just a bit too, hey, audience, the show lasted so long, because they would never know that if it was, they would never know that that was coming, because this was 40, 50, nearly 50 years before the new series actually started, so you really can't have that just to feel right. It just doesn't work in context. That being said, episode 1 of The Invasion as a story is a solid start. It's a little slow in places, but we have it's pretty much too many episodes strung together. You have the first half where the TARDIS crew, they get suspended in space. A rocket gets flung at them. They go down to Earth. Now the TARDIS has to vanish because some of the circuits break up again, probably because of the mind stuff happening in the Mind Robber. See the Mind Robber for more information. And the Doctor and company leave, and they find themselves in a compound run by a mysterious company. And this company is International Electromatics, which is very sinister. They're like, oh, well, people have disappeared. So they're like, well, can you try to get us to London? Because they're going to try to get Professor Travers' help. They realize, turns out Travers has actually gone to America. So a good friend, Professor Watkins, is living in his home with his niece Isabel, who is a photographer. And Watkins lo and behold, has gone to International Electromatics and hasn't been seen in a while, which is, again, this is something, it's sort of this company that sort of built up this company. Like, you have the driver who gets them out of there in the very beginning being shot to death. So basically we know this isn't a good company, so the Doctor and Jamie decide to go on in. They find that the receptionist who answers all the phones is a computer, so the Doctor just decides, screw it, we're just going to keep looking until we get some answers. So they keep looking, and they meet face-to-face with the boss, Tobias Vaughn, played by Kevin Stoney, who oozes charm. He's a character who oozes charm. He's a great character so far. Gives Jamie a radio, says, I'll look at your circuits, and leads him on the right way. And of course, we get the cliffhanger that he's working with some sort of an alien, as behind a secret panel in his wall, there's some, machine, this anachronistic machine, which is a legitimately good cliffhanger. Again, the big problem is that there's something missing in the animation of the episode, and it just sort of pacing feels a bit off. So I'm going to give The Invasion episode 1 a 9 out of 10. Alright, it is the 7th of January 2017, and I just finished watching The Invasion episode 2, which is an episode that exists and gets really the plot moving as, well, the Doctor and Jamie are followed out. We don't really get too much of cliffhanger resolution, except that that Tobias Vaughn, played by Kevin Stoney, is working with the titular invasion force on Earth, whereas the invasion force itself is mainly in space, which is, interesting idea. I'm glad we don't get too much. We get that they're loading stuff up, but we get Jamie and the Doctor captured by this Benton and Tracy fellow. They're two men that they're working with what's now the new United Nations Intelligence Task Force, which is headed by Brigadier Lethebridge-Stewart, previously known as Colonel Lethebridge-Stewart. He received a promotion from the Web of Fear. So we do actually have a returning character, mainly because this is the trial run for the Third Doctor's era on the show, where Brigadier Lethebridge-Stewart plays an important part as a character, which is great to have. Nicholas Courtney is back as the character, and he does a great job in the role. He's very much like, yes, Doctor, we want you to help us with this because we think something's going up with them. Mainly they've been dealing with small stuff, no full-scale alien invasions, and this might be the chance to really prove that, they are necessary, which, it's very possible, as there could very possibly be just an alien invasion just around the corner, which, is something that, is sort of, it's a big threat. Like, you have a lot of this, but you also have Zoe and Isabel going to the International Electromatics because the Doctor and Jamie haven't come back yet, so they think, well, what if something went wrong? So they go, and then they screw with the computer, they break the computer, and it is a hilarious scene. Wendy Padbury is amazing. She just sort of uses her knowledge of computers just to confuse it and to make it blow up, it's a very convincing scene, and I really, really like it because it's a lot of fun. It gives Wendy Padbury a chance to show off, but that of course makes them get captured, and of course the Doctor and Jamie get back to the house, see them gone, they go back, they sneak back in, and then, well, they see Zoe and Isabel being loaded into these crates. Jamie attacks Packer, Vaughn's henchman. Packer is a great character. He's sort of this sniveling, he's just a standard underling character, and he is really enjoyable. The character was played by Peter Halliday, and he's just a lot of fun in this episode, having this sneer on his face, knowing that he's looking like he's better than everyone. It's just a fun character, and it's fun to watch this character play off of everybody. So, Zoe and Isabel are sent off while Jamie and the Doctor go through a chase and then are cornered with all guns to their heads, and that's our cliffhanger. And that is a really, really good way to end the episode. This episode is... the direction of this episode is great. It's Douglas Camfield, who is my favorite Doctor Who director, is back directing this story, which is great. You didn't really see much in episode 1 because it was animated, but here we can actually see sort of a lot of the camera angles, and just sort of his great stuff. And the guy doing the music is a refreshing change of pace. This is music done by Don Harper in his only Doctor Who score, and it's a really good score. I enjoy listening to the score. It knows how to pack a punch and just sort of be a good, solid score. It knows what it wants to be. It's a good score. So I'm going to give The Invasion, Episode 2, a 10 out of 10, because this is a perfect episode, continuing the episode with the story. We have, a good setup. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here, and how the Doctor and Jamie will get out of this one, how Zoe and Isabel will get out of it. It knows how to leave the tension. It is the 8th of January, 2017, and I just finished watching The Invasion, Episode 3, and this episode of The Invasion continues the streak of really good episodes for this serial, as you have you have the Doctor and Jamie being taken straight to Tobias Vaughn. They don't have to they don't have to go through a bunch of different things, because they just have to talk to Vaughn. Vaughn, of course, continues to, be all charming, like, oh, nothing's wrong, you two are great, for being here, thank you, you should really stop making this a habit, and, Zoe and Isabel, they left, you must have passed each other on the way, But I'll let you see into these crates just because even though they're empty. They're empty, so you really shouldn't have any sort of problem with it. You're being kind of crazy, but I'll let you look anyway. And then he gets Packer to send the crates off to the factory, which is just hilarious because it's like, well, now you just have to come with me. I'm not evil at all. Yeah, he's obviously, this is the episode where he really starts to crack, and it's like, yeah, he's a villain. He is doing some shady stuff because he's working with an invasion force. The Doctor notices that he has these deep space telescopes for communications. Vaughn actually gives them a chance to talk to Professor Watkins because he goes under the pretense of, I just want to talk to you about those circuits. So, those circuits are going to be important. So it's like, well, I'll talk to Professor Watkins, who has been working on some sort of a teaching machine. Of course, Vaughn is watching them. Jamie's about to give out the information, like, oh, no, Jamie, shush, you can't tell that there's obviously a camera in here. Like, we're obviously being watched. So the Doctor disables the camera, then they can talk peacefully. And then they decide to use that as a way to escape, because that's when Vaughn's like, screw it, I'm just going to torture the information out of you. So he gets Jamie and the Doctor taken away with Packer. But then, shock of all shocks, Packer, being an idiot, just sort of falls for the look over there trick. And so the Doctor and Jamie are able to run into the lift, it's a hilarious scene. This episode is just great with the comedy and also making the action work well. I mean, Vaughn actually points out to Packer, like, why, he's literally asked himself, why do I keep you on? You're an idiot. You're incompetent. Kevin Stoney as Tobias Vaughn is a great villain. The guy really can give a presence. He was Maverick Chen in the Daleks' Master Plan in the Hartnell era. And, in this, just like that performance, he's a great at megalomania. I'm glad that this story mostly exists so we can actually see it happen. So you have Vaughn being in charge of the invasion force, this weird teaching machine being built, and then the Doctor and Jamie with a really intense sequence as they go into the lift. The lift gets stopped by they end up stopping the lift halfway up. They then climb out the top and go up to the roof and climb down and then try to find Zoe and Isabel, who they know are probably in those packing cases. They go into the train. Vaughn is catching up with them. The Doctor says hi. The Doctor guy goes and hides off in like a corner or something. You don't really see him hide, but that's not important. So Jamie hides in a packing crate, and the big cliffhanger is that something in the packing crate is moving, and bam, that's the end of the episode. And this is great, mainly because we don't know what would be moving, because, I mean, one, that's an electronics company, so it could be, this could be one of the missing scientists, this could be the story's alien villain, because there is an invasion, as that the Doctor sort of knows that it's probably going to happen. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we know that there's going to be some sort of an invasion. So what is it? What is it that it is? We don't know. That is the big sort of thing. We're trying to figure out where we can go from here. So that being said, we have the episode is just, it's an amazing at getting everything sort of to a conclusion. We know things are going this way. So I'm going to give the Invasion episode 3 another 10 out of 10 because it's a great episode, and I can't wait till episode 4. Right, it is the 8th of January, again 2018, and I just finished watching The Invasion episode 4, and with this we are halfway through The Invasion, and this episode is actually the big reveal of who the villains are. That, of course, is as revealed by the title card that I'm using for this episode as the Cybermen, and it turns out that the Professor Watkins teaching machine brought up in the last episode what is sort of what's used to waken up the Cybermen. The moving thing on the right was a Cyberman, not revealed, of course, until the very end of the episode, it's in a very, very effective twist, as the twist is we hear hints throughout the episode of, if they get you, you'll be converted into one of them, and you will no longer be human at all, which is great coded language. We haven't really had that for the Cybermen, and we haven't really seen any Cybermen conversions. I don't know if this is actually going to have a conversion at all, but just sort of the ideas behind it is enough to sort of make you just sort of pause and be like, can this Can this happen? Will this go badly for our heroes as they deal with, of course, the Cybermen invading? That being said, I really much enjoyed a lot of this serial. This episode. It feels real ending for everything as we have just about everything continue on the track to what should be an excellent conclusion. You have a lot of the episode dealing with a rescue mission for Zoe and Isabel, as they're captured by Vaughn. A lot of it is the Doctor and Jamie being basically acting as their own little espionage team. They use helicopters, and you're just on the edge of your seat as the Doctor tries to save his friends. It's a really, really effective way of doing it. Of sort of creating the atmosphere, and everything comes together very nicely. Just started to create what is a pretty good episode overall. The episode knows what it wants to be. It knows how to be it. Wendy Padbury and Sally Faulkner as Zoe and Isabel respectively are great as they try their hardest to escape, but they can't because they're still sort of stuck up in that room, so they can't really, and locked in, so they get out, but they're the ones who assist. And of course, the animation in this episode is great because it is a missing episode. It would have been interesting to see what Douglas Camfield did with this, because it seemed to be almost like it needed a really high budget. Animation, you have a little more leeway because you can animate stuff more easily without such a high upscale budget like this. So that's what's going to be interesting. Would be just to see. That's the last episode that's missing. So this one, from the rest of the story, is going to be all in live action. And Douglas Camfield has done a good job. This was, of course, the beginning of the production block. So I think this story had the most money thrown at it, especially because it has 8 episodes, and a lot could be done with location filming, because the sets were reused for a total of 8 weeks, and not just a standard 4 to 6 weeks, which is a little longer. So you have a very, very long story, but a very effective one. So the Invasion episode 4 gets another 10 out of 10 because it's great. You have the Cyberman reveal. You have Zoe and Isabel rescued. We have a real sense that the story is going somewhere. It is the 9th of January 2018, and I just finished watching the Invasion episode 5, and this one it's weird. Oddly enough, this story is an 8-episode story, and there hasn't been an episode that felt slow at all. Like, each episode feels like it's building towards something, and building up towards a conclusion. Like, this episode very much deals with Vaughn saying, right, the invasion is going to have to go forward the day after tomorrow. While the Doctor, Jamie, Zoe, and Unit, all their forces, they have to get ready to prepare to fight this. They realize it's the Cybermen. The Doctor and Jamie get out before they don't want to try to start anything. They actually sneak out pretty easily because it's like, well, they aren't spotted to begin with. It's just sort of, well, now they know who the villains are. The Doctor knows how he's supposed to, I guess you could say, combat the villains of the story. And, you just sort of, you have what works as a good solid story for a good, basically to have the episode be good. You have just this creation that everything has to come together, and we have to get the story. We have to have unit support in defeating the menace. But of course, this actually continues the subplot brought up in episode 4 that Major General Rutledge, the man currently in charge, one of the higher ups at unit in England for the United Nations, because this is a whole United Nations operation. It's not just a British operation. He's under hypnotic control, so the Brigadier has to go over his head. And a lot of the episode as well, we don't have proof. Mainly it kind of makes sense. I mean, the Yetis no one saw. They had to evacuate London before the Yetis showed up, when the Mist showed up in the Web of Fear, according to the backstory in that episode. And no one really believed in the Yetis until, they actually had the proof. And, this whole other race of robotic creatures coming to invade Earth sounds just as silly. So it's like, well, we need proof. We can't just say, well, we know that this is happening. Well, no, we don't know. That's that's the big point, that they don't necessarily know that, the Cybermen are coming. It's building up to that being the conclusion, and, they can conclude that there is an invasion coming, but they need proof. So Isabel actually suggests, well, I can do photography, and we know they're in the sewers, because that's a big thing. They're in the sewers. I'll just go down there, and, well, the Brigadier basically says, no, you're a young lady, and this, of course, sets Isabel off. Jamie agrees with the Brigadier, because, he's a Highlander from the 17th century, so, he doesn't exactly have modern sensibilities. So Zoe and Isabel says, well, we're just gonna do it. Screw you. And, well, they trick Jamie into coming along because, we just need the help. Really, they have him wrapped around their fingers, and that's hilarious. But you also have Vaughn basically trying to give himself a backup, just in case this whole Cyberman thing doesn't work out. He sort of knows that he can't trust them, so he has this teaching machine induce the emotion of fear onto one of the Cybermen. It goes crazy into the sewers, and that's where everything sort of meets. As the Cybermen are in the sewers, there are some Cybermen in the sewers that are sane, and they attack a policeman who follows Isabel, Jamie, and Zoe down into the sewers. And then the insane Cybermen coming towards them from both directions. And that's our cliffhanger. That is just... the way the episode ends is great. And, it gives you this feeling of fear that, like, everything could be falling apart, just because how are they going to get out of this? They're being attacked from both sides, and they either have to get themselves out of it, or they're dead. Like, that's the ultimatum in this one, and that is excellent. Like, the tension in this episode is great, and we are building towards a real sense of finale and conclusion, which is, really good for the story, especially because it's an 8-episode long story. Like, this one, you think it would get a bit dull in the middle, but we haven't gotten dull, and we are 5 episodes into this. We still have 3 more to go, so I'm going to give The Invasion episode 5 another 10 out of 10, because the story knows how to be a good story. Alright, it is still the 9th of January 2018, and I just finished watching episode 6 of The Invasion. And this episode, well, it's got a lot. I've got a lot to unpack here. First big thing is Tobias Vaughn pretty much becoming a supervillain, which is just sort of the next logical progression of his character. I mean, he's already been kind of a bit of the crazy one, like, for quite a while in this story. Like, it's been a lot of escalating towards even more craziness. But at this point, he gets Professor Watkins to make his learning machine a deadly weapon against not only Cybermen but humans. Uses it on Watkins to make him feel fear. Watkins says, if I get the chance, I'm gonna kill you. Rightfully so. The guy's kind of gone through a lot recently. Like, he thought his daughter was kidnapped. She's told that she isn't. She was let go, and basically a lot of stuff has been happening in this dude's life. And then it's like, if I get the chance, I'm going to kill you. So Vaughn, just in a very powerfully well-directed scene that just builds up this tension, he has Packer hand Watkins a gun after exploding on Watkins and Gregory, his henchman, who has been kind of loyal to him this whole time, like, who for only saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't point the deadly device at people, because you could kill them, and death isn't a good thing. That just a little bit of advice. Don't point your deadly weapons at people. That's like gun safety 101. Gives Watkins, who's clearly had a nervous breakdown by this point because of the fear machine being induced fear, gives him guns, like, oh, come on, shoot me. Goads him to shoot him. In a scene performed by Kevin Stoney, that is extremely creepy. Just because it's like, you're not. It's almost like you're not going to do it. Come on, pull the trigger. What are you? Are you just a scared little man? So he, of course, Watkins starts laughing maniacally, pulls the trigger 3 times, hits Vaughn 3 times. We see 3 bullet holes. Vaughn's not dead. He is partially converted into a Cyberman by this point, which is just kind of, okay, that makes perfect sense. Like, really, why he's been so stone cold and at least partially emotionless for most of this story. It also sort of explains why everything seems to be, totally fine for Vaughn. He's not angry at anything. He's just happy things are going well. And just that scene, it is very, 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 very tense. You have Watkins then taken away because it's like, well, you shot me. I'm not dead. Come on, you're just a wuss. You can't shoot right, and it's intense. Then we cut back to unit. Jamie is doing what Jamie does best and takes a nap. The doctor is studying, and Isabel decides to apologize to the captain that she's been flirting with through this entire story. Like, she asked, are you stinking rich? Will you buy me dinner? Not on a captain's salary, hun. Apologizing in a touching scene until the doctor realizes, hey, this whole idea that they might be hypnotizing people through electronics, yeah, they're hypnotizing people through electronics, and it's just like it was on the wheel in Space. I'm paraphrasing here. So Zoe's like, all right, we know how to fix that. So they get those things. So they get the things, the little neck discs, so people can not be hypnotized by the Cyberman. Because, being hypnotized by the Cyberman should not be on your list of priorities for the day. This episode is great, by the way. I genuinely love it. It is just really good and really good at being weird and, just sort of like, okay, we're doing this now. I have no problems with that. But yeah, so discs go on next are happy. And then the Brigadier like, right, we are raiding IE, and we are getting right Professor Watkins. Next cut, that Gregory guy, yeah, he's scared because Unit was raided IE, and they took Professor Watkins, and it's like there were helicopters and guns because we didn't have the budget to film a crazy full escape. But there was explosions, and it was amazing. And it's like, well, you're incompetent. Vaughn's just freaking out because it's like, well, the invasion's starting soon. There's nothing they can do. But, everything's going ahead. It's like nothing could possibly go wrong anymore. And then, so we cut back to unit where the doctor's like, yes, we got him back. Yay, everything's happy. And then the doctor collapses because his neck thingy falls off. The invasion starts, and we have the cliffhanger. Oh, the cliffhanger. I adore the cliffhanger for the invasion episode 6. It is up there in my top 20 cliffhangers. There are way too many cliffhangers to count that I adore. This season in particular has some great cliffhangers. Mind Robber episode 1, Invasion episode 4, Invasion episode 6, because of some other cliffhangers I've loved. I have loved Daleks episode 1, Mentally Child episode 1. This is up there with, just the great cliffhangers of like, well, we're screwed. This is up there with Dalek coming out of the river because this is not just one Cyberman, but a ton of Cybermen coming up out of the sewers, rising slowly over the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral, and just sort of walking around London, beginning their invasion. This is everything. This is the episode. If this was a 6-part story, this would be the end of episode 4, where everything shifts, does a dramatic shift, and we start getting crazy things. Like this is a historic moment. You have just London seems to be screwed. That is how episode 6 ends. That alone, plus just the fact that this episode is great. Douglas Camfield knows how to direct an episode. Like, he knows how to... He made the scene with Watkins extremely tense. He made this scene tense as everything just sort of comes together. So I'm going to give The Invasion, episode 6, a 10 out of 10, because we have just this sort of building to this amazing big climax. This is the climax of the story. Alright, it is the 10th of January, 2018, and I just finished watching the 7th episode of The Invasion. This episode is... well, it's not bad, but it's probably the weakest episode thus far, mainly for the fact that a lot of it is just sitting around talking about the invasion. We don't have much Cyberman action. You have some genuinely good scenes. You have the Doctor, really a lot, but a lot of the episode is just staring at computers as trying to figure out, well, how are we going to stop the invasion force? They know that the Cybermen are also in space, so they need to stop them from coming from space, which is all very important. But, and this is a big but, of course, there are quite a few highlights of the episode. That mainly, it just gets a little boring in the middle. It's not a bad episode. It is actually a really good episode. The direction keeps it interesting, and just the characters interacting keep it interesting. Mainly, the scenes with the Doctor are great. Jamie gets carted off halfway through the episode, which it feels kind of weird. But the scenes with the Doctor are great, and the Doctor, he sneaks in through the sewers in a hilarious scene where he flips a coin to choose which way he's going, looks at it, starts head that way, and is like, nah, I'm going to go the other way. It's a hilarious scene that just sort of showcases Patrick Troughton as a comic actor, and Patrick Troughton is just a great actor in general. And then he has some great scenes with Vaughn as he tries to convince Vaughn that the Cybermen are going to turn on him. But Vaughn, being the megalomaniacal genius, is convinced that he's prepared for that. Oddly enough, the cyber planner has been hiding behind his wall the entire time, and he knows this. So I don't know how late he thinks he's going to get away with this. Spoiler alert: he isn't as the cliffhanger of this episode is. They need to stop the Cybermen because they're betraying Vaughn, because Zoe actually is the one who blows up the Cybermen fleet. She figures out the math. She figures out the math to get the fleet to blow up and do everything correctly. Excuse me. And stop the fleet. So she's the one who gets to be large and in charge in this one. And it is great. I love Zoe in this episode. But mainly there isn't much Cybermen in this. That's really the problem. So the Invasion episode 7 is going to get an 8 out of 10. Because it's a great episode, don't get me wrong. It just drags and there's no Cybermen. It's a lot of talking. Alright, it is the 11th of January 2018, and I just finished watching episode 8 of The Invasion, bringing the story to a stunning conclusion. There's one major problem with this episode, and that is that it is just a little bit slow in places, and that, well, the defeat of there's, I don't know if it's a mistake in editing, the model shot where it shows the Cyberman ship being destroyed at the end, because the first half of the episode is we need to destroy the Cybermen on Earth at IE, which is done through an amazing sequence of location footage. I will go into that detail later. The second is we need to destroy them in space and their bomb, which of course we use missiles, which are the missiles coming off of Earth. We don't ever see the bomb be destroyed, which, fair point, budget's what it is. You can't necessarily have everything. But we see the ship get destroyed, and that actually happens after they say the ship is destroyed. So it just makes for an awkward cut, and it just sort of takes you out of it. It's like, that's weird. But the episode opens with Tobias Vaughn. Well, he's on the side of the good guys, but he's definitely not a good guy. Like, his motivation this whole time was he's just essentially power hungry, which that sort of explains a lot about the guy. Like, Packer bursts into the room freaking out because it's like, hey, everything is falling apart. This is horrible. How are we gonna do this? How is this even possible? How is this gonna work? I have no idea. So you have a feeling. That feeling of just that, like, Packer realizes, hey, I'm in too deep. This is not what in my job description. And, it works for the character. Like, Packer then gets killed. Like, there's for a moment you think Packer has been turned into a Cyberman because it's like, he calls for Packer, a Cyberman shows up. They come in, they kill Packer. The only reason the Doctor and Vaughn escape is because they use the Professor's only machine. So, we gotta stop their transistor so they can't get to Earth, but they, of course, could still drop their bomb. So, the Doctor and Vaughn, we have just almost like a James Bond stealth scene as they go across rooftops towards the IE, where the warehouse where the transmitter is, in a rather stealthy sequence that is really fun to watch. Like, it's a sequence that I enjoyed watching that one very much. It was fun. It has, it sort of has a lot of, punch to it. It knows how to make itself and make it an interesting little sequence. And then the big punch into the end is that, well, everything, of course, is, the unit is coming also as well to destroy the Cybermen on Earth, which sort of makes sense. Like, of course they want to destroy the Cybermen, and everything just sort of works out for the best in this story. And the sequence is great. You have Unit there, of course, destroying the Cybermen, the Doctor and Vaughn trying to get in. Vaughn gets killed. It takes Unit quite a while just to kill the 7 Cybermen that... No, not 7, 12. The 12 Cybermen. And you just sort of get this feeling like, well, what if there were more? How would we survive? Which is really good and a really effective notice of how to use your villain, like, properly, just as a villain. You know that they're effective, that if 12 can't really be defeated by our heroes very, very easily. And then you have Vaughn gets killed, the Doctor gets shot at, everybody meets up and destroys the Cybermen. And then we move into, of course, the sequence where everything, the Cybermen ships in space get destroyed. Earlier in the episode, I should have mentioned, what's really nice is that Zoe gets congratulated just for being able to do math, like this advanced math, which is really good for her character. That was really, really enjoyable to listen to. And then the entire unit, and then you have, really the final scene is very comedic. You have Isabel gets a happy ending, which is really nice. She gets put up with a publishing company, so now she can actually, sort of make a name for herself as a photographer, and, she will no longer have to model herself, which is nice. She meets up with Captain Turner. They all take the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe to the TARDIS. Jamie's been absent for most of the episode because he was healing his leg injury that sort of came out of nowhere in the last episode. And you have this hilarious scene where they try to find the TARDIS because it was invisible. The Doctor makes it appear, and then we go on for more adventures. So this episode is a solid episode. It just has those weird middle of the road pacing problems that stop me from enjoying it completely. So I will give The Invasion, episode 8, a 9 out of 10. That, of course, finishes The Invasion as a story, the 8-part epic that it is. So we can give it a score of 9.5 out of 10. Thank everybody for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And next time, well, we won't actually be doing a TV story. We will actually be going back into the Big Finish audio dramas for the Second Doctor for the next 3 stories, with the first one being Prison in Space.